I'll tell her. I'm going to leave here and I'm going back to the house. So. Okay. What's that? Damien, I just talked to him. He's come down.
Song I want to play that is kind of special, special to me, maybe special to you all. And I wanted to, after the song, I want to say a quick prayer of the 23rd Psalm. Some of you may all know, some of you may not, but it's on the prayer card so you can read along. And I wanted to open it up with that. We were lifelong Catholics. Johnny had gone to St. Francis Xavier and Bishop Hogan for a couple years. So did I, and Joe had attended grade school for a bit. So I feel like our roots are a little bit in the Catholic Church. So after that, I'll have a eulogy. It may be a little bit long, so I'm going to tell you right now. It touches on a couple subjects: life and death, grief, and everything that probably all of you have all gone through in your lives at some point or another. Some of them haven't gone through it, which is great, but it's probably going to come eventually to you. So hopefully the words make sense to you, and it's a good understanding. It's from our perspective as a family, losing somebody before their time. So I'll go ahead and start the song now.
I will tend the pouring rain. finest bread I will provide, till their hearts be satisfied. I will give my life to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. Oh, I will hold your people in my heart.
It's got some great words to it. I, the Lord, of snow and rain, I have borne my people's pain. I cling to the belief that those words are so true. I hope so. Now more than any time in our lives. I want to go into the 23rd Psalm. If you want to read along with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lay down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, thy comfort me. Thou preparest a table for me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Pretty powerful prayer in these types of times. Cling on to your faith in the crazy world we live in. Okay, like I said, my name's Jesse Medina, Jr. I'm John's oldest brother. I'm the oldest in the family. My eulogy is going to be long, so have patience with me. Slight pauses and eye raises from the podium of are meant for levity. It's not me stammering. So here we go with life. John had two brothers, myself and his little brother Joe, in the back of the room. A little sister Jackie, and our father Jesse Sr. and his mother Lorenza. Both of them are here. If you know them, you've met them here. But if not, please introduce yourself to them. John also had two daughters, Brittany and Alexis. They're both here as well. Hopefully you'll have the time to go up and introduce yourselves to them. John was born the second boy to Jesse Sr. and Lorenza Barbosa Medina. Once my little brother Joe was born, 2 years later, that completed the trio of Medina boys that would go on in later years terrorizing the 49th through 63rd DeSale to Rock Hill Road area. We were the precursor to gangs. No gangster rap music, no guns, no break dancing break-offs, no low riders, no pants drooping off of us. We were more like the Apple Dumpling Gang, Hispanic version. Compared to that was also compared ourselves to our counterparts over on the Rock Hill side, which was a whole bunch of other groups. I think the Wurtzes and the Quirks and the Denny Harts and all those guys. They were a little bit rougher around the edges than we were. But our reputation followed us wherever we went, and the older people in the neighborhood could never get our names right. We were always the Medina boys. We were never the Medina boys. They kept messing up on that syllable. But anyway, we couldn't figure that out, but we were known as the Medina boys, and that was fine by us. And I talked to a couple people here today that are from the old neighborhood. There's at least five of us here, and we've talked about our childhood and what a great childhood we had. I don't think my mother and father had really planned this out, but it just so happened we were living in the age raised by parents from the greatest generation that only wanted good for us, only wanted us to go to college. There was a single focus, is to be good, go to college, get your degree, because we didn't have it, and they were happy with just that, and turned out to be a good boy. So we lived in a great time, also in a great neighborhood. But we used to be able to play in the street till 10 p.m., until the street lights came on, and there was always a cavalcade of kids our ages. So we grew up in a Catholic grade school area, so there were a lot of Catholic families there with, 3.5 kids or greater. Some of them had 7 or 9. So if we didn't have our friends that were our age, we could always drop down low enough and get somebody that was 2 or 3 years younger than us or 2 or 3 years older than us. So we had probably a good 24 families that we could turn to go play and have good times with. But and it was like a 4 square block of areas that we had people that we knew: the Skaggs's, the Breens, the Joanne Payne and the Paynes, the Preston Giacomo's, the Teasdales, the up there on Forest, the Hicks. So there was probably just so many I can't even remember them right now, to be honest with you. And my dad, one thing, he had a distinctive whistle. So when it came 10 o'clock or thereabouts, you heard this long, drawn-out whistle that came from the gut. And I mean, nobody could replicate it. I've never heard it. I go to the Chiefs season tickets all the time. Okay, do it. You there? Can you still do it? Is he trying to do it, Marcy? He's too embarrassed. Okay. He's the introvert. Okay. Well, anyway, it was a distinctive whistle. And whenever you hear it, you can hear it a block and a half away. Boy, if you didn't get your rear end home, you were going to get in trouble. And that was back when it was allowable. There weren't no such things as DFACs and family services and child welfare. If your parents wanted to spank you, you got spanked. There was no repercussions. Luckily, I took the brunt of most of that punishment by being the oldest. But being Catholic and attending St. Francis Xavier, we could never talk or horse around church. These are sacred times back then, because not because we were so into the Catholic religion, because we were boys and we horsed around a lot. But my mother had a pinch that she would put on you that would leave you black and blue for about a week, and I mean, it would hurt. And so whenever she motioned you to go over towards her, that meant you were going to get the pinch, and you weren't going to get cookies for a few days. But it hurt like hell, I'll be honest with you. And I was usually the brunt of most of that. So that's a memory, not so good a memory, but it is one I remember. A few short things and highlights on our life that John was part of. We weren't. A lot of people we didn't have a whole lot. We were middle class. I mean, we had a house payment, we had my mom's car, we had food, we had clothes, we went to Catholic grade school and high school. So we really didn't want for anything. We had all our friends in a great neighborhood that was safe. But I do remember a couple times that I think families were jealous of us, and that's what I'm going to go through here. And Johnny was a part of that too, because we loved every minute of it. But one of the times was my Uncle Louis had given us a go-kart. And when you give a go-kart that's got a motor on it, that's like a little car to kids that are like 8 and 10 and 11, I mean, that's it. I mean, that's you've reached the zenith of being a great grade school kid. And we had that car, and we drove it around the neighborhood. I think we actually got a couple tickets driving it on the sidewalks or in the street that neighbors had called us on. And that was back I don't even know how they could give you a ticket if you were 11 years old driving a golf cart. But somehow they figured it out, because the cops had heard about the Medina boys terrorizing the neighborhood. So, it came logically that the law would be chasing after us. But that was one time. Another time was a Christmas, a real special Christmas. And where we used to live at, we owned a duplex, and we lived in the bottom apartment and rented out the top. But we had full access to the basement. And my dad had a little locked up tool room in there that one Christmas, they were really being kind of uptight about us going around there because he had a padlock on it, and it also had some sort of blinds on it, so you couldn't see in it. But around Christmas time, my mom was acting goofy and my dad was acting goofy, and they didn't want us going down the basement. I knew something was going on. So that was the year that my mom had, I don't know how many paychecks she had to go through or how long the layaway was. It may have been for 2 years. But there was a mini bike that was on sale at Sears Wholesale Club or something like that. And it wasn't cheap. It cost a lot of money back then. And that Christmas, we woke up to a brand new shiny mini bike. And we, again, started terrorizing the neighborhood on a motor vehicle. So that was another memory that we would get caught going in between houses and up and down the streets. And we were never supposed to take it to the street, but of course we always did. So eventually the cops got caught and we got another ticket on the mini bike. So now we're getting well known in the 4900 block of Lydia as being those Medina boys with all those, driving stuff that they shouldn't be driving way before their time. But that was something that a lot of the neighbors were really jealous with, and a lot of the guys at school too. They'd come over to our house and we'd take the mini bike out. Another moment that I remembered, and it actually added to my brother Joe and Johnny's affinity for basketball. My dad, we had a little tiny rectangular backyard with a hill that went up to another yard, but this little backyard was probably something like 20 feet wide by, I don't know, 50 feet long. But it was a perfect rectangle. My dad decided he was going to buy 2 industrial basketball goals and put them up on poles on either end of this yard. And then he went as far as lining all that dirt up with bricks. So we had a brick-lined custom basketball court with floodlights that we drove the neighborhood. The Melansons were to the right of us, the Breshcomas were to the left of us. So for many a summer and spring, you could hear the drone of that boom, 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 boom until 10 and 11 o'clock at night with Joe and Johnny practicing basketball. But they went on to be standout stars in high school, so it was all worth it. But that was another time where we'd get a lot of people from the neighborhood to come down, and it would be something that would really be cool because could get teams of 5 together and have really many little basketball tournaments. It was a fantastic memory that I remember. A lot of times in playing in basketball, Johnny and Joe both played for St. Francis, and when they moved out to Cass Midway, my parents moved out in the late 70s from Kansas City in the 49th and Lydia area to Freeman, Missouri. They bought a house that was on 40 acres, and it was a big move for them at the time. We had a couple other relatives out there, and so they had gone on to play basketball, standout basketball at Cass Midway. So that all the time practicing in the backyard of Lydia paid off because there were some great games. I remember going to Cass Midway with my brother Joe, shooting last-minute fouls to win games and everything. It was a lot of fun to go out there and see it. But that's a time that when we were basically 3 brothers. We were triumvirate of the Medina boys, as it will. But as all good things have to come to an end, I was 17 years old and my mother announced she was pregnant. And the streak of boys ended, and we welcomed a little sister named Jacqueline or Jackie. 3 older brothers. Can you say spoiled? Mm-hmm. I think that was when most of our foolishness in the neighborhood kind of stopped and our big brother roles took over. Another memory is that John and I spent the summer of 1972 living with our family in Leon, Mexico. We'd never met them. My father had a wild idea that he could immerse us in Mexico, deep in the heart of Mexico, and we would learn Spanish just like he did when he was a kid. He didn't consult us with this idea, but he had the idea. But anyway, we were going back to meet the roots on my mom's side and my dad's side and immerse ourselves. That's the only summer in my whole life, and probably in John's too, that we could vividly remember, the weeks and the months and everything we did. I mean, if you asked me what I did last summer, I couldn't tell you. If you asked me what I did 2 summers ago, I couldn't tell you. So that was a very, very unique summer for us. We were really kind of loving it after we got there. After we got over the initial shock that we were being left there, That was we had to digest that one. We went down there thinking it was going to be a vacation, and then my dad gets up after 5 days and says, "Well, we're going back home." And we thought, great. And he said, "No, you guys are staying here with these people you don't even know." So we weren't too happy the first week, but our family really took us in, and it was really a great time. And we did learn how to speak Spanish fluently in 3 months, so that's no lie. Anybody that wants to take immersion classes, it does work. One of the things that we did there, and we were there for 3 months, we played soccer all morning, and my aunt and uncle had 10 kids, and they were anywhere from like college age down to newborns, 2 years old, 1 year old. So we had a huge family to play with, and then all their neighbors. So in the mornings we played basketball, and in the afternoons we'd walk down to the local park, or in Mexico they call them jardins, for gardens, and we would take morning walks to go get breakfast tortillas. And I can remember distinctly walking up there, and John not speaking good enough Spanish, but me speaking a little bit better, and we'd go up there and, you know, por favor, dame las tortillas, you know, and do our really broken Spanglish. But we'd also go to, our aunt and uncle owned a farm outside of the city there. And it was there that we spied a broken down motorcycle and spent the next 30 days hounding our mom to send us money so my cousins could buy the parts needed to fix it. And after the last part, it took about 3 or 4 weeks before my mom could wire us all the money. But once we got the money and the last part was bought, we got the motorcycle running, and we would race it around like two Evel Knievels with reckless abandonment. We drove our cousins absolutely crazy with our antics because we wanted to go out there every day. And of course, they limited it to the weekends. So that was something that we really loved and remembered all the time. I used to ask him, "You remember taking that motorcycle out?" And he'd say, "Yeah, that was a blast." Sadly, the last 3 weeks there, I caught hepatitis, and I was bedridden, really bad, had no energy, and I had to wait till my mom came and picked us up. But John found something to do. He found a girlfriend there. He'd stolen my cousin's girlfriend, and had gotten him angry with all of us. But when my family moved out to Freeman, we had an aunt, Allison David Hill, who already lived out in Harrisonville, and then we had another aunt on my mom's side, Carmen and Manuel Garcia in Freeman, and a couple of their kids are here today too. So they were really happy. They had the farm. John and Joe and Jackie all took the farm fine, and it was like a new chapter for everybody's lives. John, Joe, and Jackie all attended Cass Midway High School. John and Joe both were standout varsity basketball players. Jackie went on to become a cheerleader, standout student. She graduated from KU, so she's a Jayhawker. John attended Avila College, and he was the first one in the family to get his business degree in the family, and it was an accomplishment that everybody was proud of. My mom and dad were really proud of. I was as well. Joe would graduate next from Avila with his degree in chemistry. I was the oldest one, and I was without a degree until I turned 50. So, you know, as my parents said, you know, all they kept saying is, go to college, go to college. Oh, forget about your brother that doesn't have his degree, but he has his job. So that was kind of a bone of contention there. But they both went to college, got their degrees, and I eventually got mine when I was 50 years old in computer science down in Atlanta. Thanks. That was the hardest damn thing I ever did in my life. Yeah, algebra at 50 is no fun, neither is chemistry. Thank God I could afford a tutor. And I was good friends with my chemistry professor, so that really helped out a lot for me. John's first job was at a plumbing supply store in Harrisonville. He became a local expert, and people would come in all the time asking for him because of his jovial disposition, and he knew his stuff. And actually, I'm a handyman, but he taught me a few things back then, which was, for me, kind of hard to swallow, but he knew his plumbing stuff. His next job was as a surveyor for a company, and I don't know if Joe is, did Jerry or Tom make it? Joe, did Jerry or Tom make it today? Because I didn't see him. Guess not. Okay. One of his friends got him a job as a surveyor, and he absolutely loved that job. If you know my brother, he loved the outdoors. He loved the sun. He loved the hot weather. It didn't take much for him to rip off his shirt to try to get his tan. But he loved that surveying job, and he loved being out in it. And that was when he became a father to Brittany, he had started off and raised her till about she was 12 as a single father, with a lot of help from her mom and from my mom, her grandma and grandpa. And I never saw someone, and I mean this, and I know a lot of people, let alone a man, that showed so much tenderness and patience and love toward his child. It was really, to me, a beautiful thing to watch. It was having my own daughter, Juliet. She had been born 2 years earlier. So my mother and father, myself and John were in the granddaughter-daughter nirvana that you go through when you have kids that are kind of out of diapers. That's the best way. They're really fun, between 3 and 9 or 10. But we loved it, and they were, Brittany and Juliet were best buddies, and they would be babysitted at the same time. And I can tell you a story that's not on the script here, but it reminds me whenever I think of Brittany and I think about the time that Johnny would go out. He was working surveying. If he didn't have a babysitter, he'd take Brittany out to the farm, and my mom and dad would be there. And I'll never forget, whenever I used to come into Kansas City, I used to sleep on the couch. I didn't have a bedroom at their farm, so I slept on the couch. And I'll never forget Johnny dropping Brittany off one day, and she absolutely loved the movie The Wizard of Oz. She was hooked on it as a kid and could watch it over and over again. But one of the things was that I remember looking up. I was tired because I stayed up late, and there was Brittany in a chair with 3, 4 pillows surrounding her to keep her up, a pillow in front of her on her lap, and her bottle. And as Johnny was leaving, he put on the Wizard of Oz tape, which was VHS tape back then. And Brittany would be sitting there with her sucking her thumb, watching it, engrossed in this movie. And she couldn't call it Wizard of Oz, she called it Toto. So she would say, "Put on Toto." That was her move, put on Toto. But I'll never forget that when I went back to sleep, laid my head down, Brittany was watching it. She had her thumb in her mouth, and the movie was just starting. And then I remember looking up about 45 minutes later, and she had sunk all the way over to the other side. The bottle was on the floor, and it was right during she hated that flying monkey scene. Man, that she either she faked it or she just passed out before that. I don't know what the deal was. That was something that I'll always remember that about Brittany and the farm. John eventually found himself working and using his business degree at Sprint, and he was very, very happy there. He made many friends, some of them who are here today that have introduced themselves to me. Appreciate you coming. And he'd made a lot of friends, and he loved the campus, but it was the beginning of 3 separate layoffs and stints there. I mean, he was on his 4th back on with Sprint, this time as a contractor working at the Network Operations Center at the Sprint campus. And so that was the 4th time he had been back to Sprint. So he had a lot of patience with Sprint. He'd hoped to get on permanently and bridging his years. I know that one of the last conversations I had with him was that he thought that he could get on there and bridge his years, which he was really looking forward to. And by the way, if his friend from Sprint who hired him or got him in here at the Knock Center, if you're here, please come up and introduce yourself to myself. I've been trying to reach you, but I don't think I've been successful. So hopefully maybe another time, or if you're here and I haven't met you, please come up. He loved his time at Sprint and the campus. He loved the people on the campus, and it had a ton of people there, so I can see why he really loved it. John rented my old house in Prairie Village, where he raised Brittany there. And then he eventually bought his house in Fairway, Kansas in the early 90s. He loved that house. He had the best lawn in the whole block. He had a green thumb, and boy, I don't know how he did it, but his yard always looked greener than everybody else's. And he knew exactly how to get rid of the squirrels. He would put the tin up and down the trees so that the squirrels would climb. I never knew what they were there for. And I finally asked him one day, not wanting to sound stupid, I said, "Why do you have that tin that's 2 feet up wrapped around your tree for? You're not worried about dogs peeing on it, are you?" And he looked at me like, "Are you ignorant or what?" That's to stop squirrels from going up. And I thought, oh, okay. But anyway, he had it was a great house there, and he really did a lot of work to it, and it was just the perfect neighborhood. He was in Fairway, Kansas, which is like 5 minutes from the plaza and like 7 minutes from I-35. So whenever I came and stayed there, which I did quite often, probably more often than he wanted, it was always really close to the plaza. So of course I found out all the local coffee places nearby that we could go to. Brittany grew up in that house. She went to grade school and high school there. Like I said, it was our go-to safe house, and I would fly in from Kansas City to Atlanta, and his couch was always a welcome sight. John's second daughter, Alexis, was born, and life was really abundant around his house. On the weekends he had her, so she was an extremely shy girl, and my boisterous ways were apparently more than she could deal with. So for many years she shied away from me. I mean, she didn't shy away. She ran away from me. As she got older, she kind of came out of her shell, and now I think we're okay now, right, kiddo? Yeah, okay. Well, she's a freshman at KU, another Jayhawker, and I know Johnny was really proud of her, and she was also a swimmer. You competed in swimming, didn't you? For like 3-4 years? All 4? Okay. So she's not afraid of the water, I guess. Okay. A lot of times, the time that John was at Sprint, he loved everything about it. He loved getting dressed up. He loved getting to work on time. He loved everything. But one of the things he loved was getting to be able to work at the Sprint information booth at the Chiefs game. He really got into that, and I don't know if it was because he was meeting people. I don't know if it was because he was seeing the free football game, because he really couldn't see the football game from where he was at. But he got a special Sprint/Chiefs jacket, and I think that was the thing that he really liked. Every year or every 2 years they give him a new one. He absolutely loved that. His adulthood, he had some ups and downs like we all do, but he powered through them all. He helped me on many occasions, helping me paint either my rental house or doing work for friends of mine. He was an awesome painter. It's something that we picked up. My dad used to work part-time painting houses in the spring and summer to pick up extra money, to buy mini bikes and go-karts and that kind of stuff, and bricks for the basketball court. But my dad was an excellent painter. He's retired now from it, damn it. But I've got a rental house in Kansas City that needs some painting. But anyway, John picked up the painting, and it was a way that he could make money as well. He could outpaint me, but he could not outdance me on the dance floor, and that was something I was really, really proud of. I could always get him cracking up when I introduced a new dance move to him, whether it was the washing machine or the body shake or my Michael Jackson routines. When you knew he was about to enter hysterics, his laugh would turn into like this little snort. So if you know John, if he laughed around him, or if he laughed at you or whatever, you knew that whenever he got going, he'd like let out this little snort. I don't know if you ever caught that, but I used to love getting him to the point of snorting, because he'd never stop. He'd go into hysterics, and he was really one of my best audience for all my shenanigans. He loved going to techno dance clubs. I know there's a lot of you people here that, Michelle and Maria and some others, Jamie, I think. But anyway, he loved that scene. He loved the music. I personally, I don't understand a 45-minute dance song, but they do. He had a lot of close friends there. He would make CD mixes of music he liked and he'd give them out free to his friends and at the Shady and others. Once, him and his friends, a married couple from Kansas City, Brian and Maria, they came to Atlanta. We all went out to a techno club they found, and I found out firsthand what a wimp I was compared to them. I ran out of gas dancing at 5 a.m., and they were still going. We had started at 11 p.m. So he, along with my Aunt Stella, were my best audiences for my tomfoolery. His laugh and grins were always seconds away when I launched into my shenanigans. His love of the beach and the sun and ocean is well known. His goal was to eventually be living in Florida or somewhere close to Florida. I tried my best to get him to go snow skiing with me, but it was fruitless. I gave up after 20 years of trying. He was a staple at the Fairway City Pool with him and Brittany and all the other private pools like the Jones Pool. How he could get any darker skin was beyond me, but he could. He was going to come down to Atlanta in the spring to live. He was going to help out watching his mom, and he told me, "You will have the cleanest pool in Atlanta because I'm going to be at it every day." I want to talk about death. I just talked about life. We're going to talk about death. So bear with me. All of us today have four things in common. We're all human beings here on this big planet called Earth, living our lives. Two, we all knew John in different capacities and all loved him. And we all have two appointments in life. We have an appointment to be born, and we have an appointment to die. My brother's appointment to live was September 21st, 1960. And my brother's appointment to die was November 17, 2017, at the age of 57. His appointment was moved up prematurely, and for that we are heartbroken and shocked. But we have to live with his death. It is in his death we mourn today, but celebrate as well. We're thanking you all for making it today. It provides us great comfort and closure. It reinforces what we knew about John, that he was a kind, gentle soul who will be missed by us all. Here are some of the things I will miss with John not being here. I'll miss him picking me up at the airport and our long talks back to the farm. I'll miss us eating at Gates and Sons. I'll miss fixing things at our mother's farm, including seeing him mow the lawn with his shirt off, getting a tan. Mm-hmm. Driving into Harrisonville for errands, or we used to call it Harrisonville, because one of our daughters, I forget if it was Brittany or Juliet, couldn't pronounce that V, so it was always Harrisonville. And recently, there's a guy that opened up a barbecue store near Freeman, and his name was Harold. And the last couple years, we would go in there and talk to Harold, and Harold had a little pool hall in there, and we'd go and have a beer and a barbecue sandwich, and really, really a nice guy. And we both liked him. And so a lot of times we'd go in and we'd go to Harold's, which is only about 5 miles from our farm, which if anybody's ever been out to our farm, you typically have to go 10 to 12 miles to get to anywhere that there's a store. So to have Harold's barbecue locally in Freeman was kind of a treat. I'll miss him hosting me and his mom at the farm that she loves going to. Even if it was for one day or night, she loved going to her farm. I'll miss becoming grandfathers together. I'll miss having a beer at the Shady and seeing Anthony. Seeing him at the Sprint booth at Arrowhead during Chiefs games. Growing old and most importantly, letting the government pay us to be in retirement. That was kind of a nice dream. I'll miss our vacations to St. Simon's Island, and probably a dozen other moments that will come to me in time. All these I will miss, and all of you have your own things you will miss as well. That will be painful times for all of us when moments of deja vu hit us, whenever and whenever. We'll ask you to not feel sad when moments like that hit you, but to remember his smile, his laugh, his voice, and for that memory to bring a smile to you, and to remember him and say to him, his spirit, that you miss him. In that, I think he would appreciate and enjoy. From John's family to you, we thank you for coming and being part of this celebration of life, and being a part of his life in any capacity it was. His physical life has ended here, but in us and in you, his friends and his whole big family, his spirit life force lives on with every memory we possess. In your lives, we wish you peace and comfort as we now ask God to give peace and comfort to my brother John, of which he deserved and now has. And I want to talk about a situation that it's about depression, and it's the 2020 hindsight that comes out of a tragedy. Unfortunately, sometimes too late. But if it helps to reach out to anybody in this room, and you can reach out to anybody else in your family or friends, then it would be worth it. It'd be worth the 2 minutes that I'm talking. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. We all go through depression at some points in our lives. Let's assume we all know that feeling and it eventually subsides and all is good again. The person with constant, unending depression is someone to pay attention to. And rather than think it will pass, our stance should be to be aware of red flags in that person's actions. Looking for these may be hard but it can be a precursor that the depressed one may be more than depressed. And I'll list them. The person may reach out to others not in their typical circle, family, friends. That's a big red flag. I don't know how you find that out. Their friend would have to tell you, but it is definitely a red flag. 2, the person may be under stress financially, romantically, workload, whatever. 3, the person gives away personal belongings. Big red flag. 4, a difference in attitude, giving up easier on task and no patience is another one. 5, a loss of appetite, unknown reasons. 6, no longer doing things they enjoyed, like going to the gym or holidays and costume parties. 7, issues with holding a job that they would otherwise be able to keep. 8, not engaging with family or talking about their problems. And 9, and it's an important one, it's a consumption of liquor or drugs to desensitize them from the worries that whatever that they may be. These are some warning signs that everybody needs to look for if you have anybody that you know that's depressed. And of all these signs, the signs that the person may be depressed, not just depressed, but suicidal, is extremely important. As we look back in hindsight, if any of these signs appear, approach the person and ask them how they are, and ask one very important question that could make the difference in their lives and yours. Ask them if they're having suicidal thoughts. Only then can you take the action for them and help prevent any senseless losses that come out of their condition. I'm not a doctor, nor a psychoanalyst, just someone that lost a brother and will be forever haunted by that single question. I could have asked and didn't, and it could have made a difference in my brother's life. Know the signs, then act on them. We believe it can make a difference. I want to talk, this is in my closing, I want to talk, and I'm going to put some music on the background. It's a beautiful Irish folk song called The Minstrel Boy. I think piano is the best way. Hang on, let me get it going, and then I'll talk about grief, and that will be it. Hang on. Actually, I lied. I'm out of order here. I'm gonna play a slideshow with a very, very powerful song, I think, and it reminds me every time I hear it, and I heard it a lot of times. Things in life are not just coincidence. My cousin Fernando calls it magic. Other people call it deja vu. Sometimes you can equate it to an angel coming down and your guardian angel and doing things in life that make you think and ponder and know that there is a spirit life around us. The song is You're Still You. It's sung by Josh Groban, if you all know him. But I think it fits this slideshow. That's a great song. I love that song. Okay, I want to talk about grief, and that'll be the last thing here. Let me get this song here. You know, life brings joy and death brings grief. I had my own notion of grief. I thought it was a sad time that followed the death of someone you loved. I thought you had to push through it to get to the other side. I'm learning now there's no other side. There's no pushing through. But rather there is absorption, adjustment, acceptance, and appeasement with the circumstances of life bestowed upon you. Grief is not something you complete, but rather you endure. Grief is not a task to finish and move on. Grief is an element of yourself, an alteration of your way of being, and it's a new way of seeing through the fog and dealing with the absence of the loved one. My brother will be missed by many people, his family especially. We thank you for coming today to celebrate John's life. Peace to you. Peace to us. And our wish is that John can now rest in peace. Thank you all. Feel free to eat whatever food's left, grab a drink, mingle. If you haven't met my mother and father, or me, or my brother Joe, or Jackie, please come by and say hello. Introduce yourself. I know there's a lot of people here that I never met before. I'm sure Johnny mentioned them, but I haven't met. So I want to thank you for coming up and introducing yourselves. I want to thank you for being here. It was an absolutely beautiful room on a beautiful day with a bunch of beautiful people and a lot of lasting memories. I could feel the positive energy. I could feel all the good thoughts. It's running through me from the first person that came in the door and seeing all the old people in our lives. Really a tribute to my brother, to my brother's love, and the way he had a special friendship with all of you. He'll be sorely missed. It's something that we're still processing. It's something that I don't think, we just don't know. Everybody does it differently. And we were a close family. Had drifted apart a little bit, but I think this tragedy is bringing us back together in a really, really good way. And for that, I'm happy. But like I said, please enjoy whatever's left of the food and come by. And please sign the register so that we can send a thank you to you all. I wish I knew everybody's first name, but I don't. So please come up. And like I said, thank you again for making this a very, very, very special day for my brother, for our family, and peace to you all.
I ended up having to buy it. Mine is